Hi, and welcome back to Bean Talk, to our fourth episode of our Coffee Masterclass. And last week we talked about the espresso, but as I'm assuming that most of you might not only drink espresso, but maybe also milk-based drinks, today we're going to talk about milk steaming and latte art. Are you struggling to foam milk for your breakfast cappuccino, or are you looking for some basic information on latte art as your starting barista? Then you've come to the right place. Today, in our fourth episode of the Coffee Masterclass by Bean Talk, we want to talk about milk steaming and latte art, where I want to teach you the basics of how to steam your milk and how to perfectly pour it for your cappuccino. If you're new to our Coffee Masterclass, this is where we want to bring you from an enthusiastic coffee beginner all the way to professional barista by explaining you tips and tricks on different brewing techniques, latte art, and coffee theory. And all this with some nice step-by-step guidelines on how to become a better barista and learn more about coffee. So let's get started with steaming milk and what is important to consider when steaming your milk, of course, for a nice cappuccino. So of course, there are a few things one might need for steaming milk. First of all, there's the milk. The best milk, you might wonder, that you should use for foaming milk is regular fresh milk or whole milk. It actually foams the best. Some people think that the kind that lasts a little longer is better, but no, it's regular milk that foams the best. And what is important, chemically speaking, in the milk is the amount of protein in the milk. So in case this one, for example, has 3.3 grams of protein. As long as the milk has this amount of protein, usually it's suitable for foaming compared to other options. But of course, nowadays there's not just cow milk, but also milk alternatives. And so when you want to foam a milk alternative, usually try and get the barista version. For example, oat milks like Oatly or Minor Figures, they usually have sort of barista version that has a higher amount of protein in it or some extra oil so that you can better foam it compared to the regular version. Then once you've decided on which milk you want to use, you need a pitcher. This is very important as well, and many people have different preferences. But yeah, you need a pitcher. They come in different sizes and different shapes. So for example, looking at different pitchers, we have this one, for example, which has a very narrow spout, and this one, which has a very broad kind of spout, which is important later on for a latte art. And of course, they also come in different sizes, colors, and whatever. And then, of course, you need a steam wand or an espresso machine with a steam wand, preferably. In this case, we once again have our Slayer single group that we can use for the steaming part. Now that you want to steam milk, let's see how it's done properly. So if you take your milk and your pitcher, pour in the milk to the lower end of the spout, and usually this is the best level of milk in your pitcher to properly foam it. And now, before foaming, you have to consider a few things to properly foam your milk. Because ideally, you want a so-called microfoam. So not like huge bubbles inside your milk, but very, very smooth, silky milk. And to do that, we need a little bit of air inside the milk, but also not too much. In order to get more air into your milk, the first phase of steaming milk is that you put the steam wand, the tip, just about 1 or 2 millimeters underneath the level of the milk. Now you're gonna hear the sort of hissing of the milk. Where you hear that air is going into the milk. And now your second hand is going to be placed underneath the pitcher. And once you feel that it sort of gets warm, not hot, just a little warm, you can insert the pitcher a little bit more so that your 1 or 2 centimeters inside the milk with your steam wand. What you want to do now is the so-called rolling phase, because now we want to basically have this rolling motion of the milk to smash larger bubbles of air in the milk, so that we're only left with the silky milk. And if you do this perfectly, you should get this very silky texture. What's also very important with your milk is the temperature, of course. You don't want it too cold, but you also don't want it too hot. Ideally, once again, with your hand placed underneath the pitcher, you can use this as your thermometer. And luckily enough, the moment when you feel that your hand is getting hot is the perfect temperature for milk. So around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, you will probably start feeling that the heat is getting too much for you to handle. That's when you can let go of the milk pitcher underneath, but holding it with the other hand, of course, and turn off the steam. And in that case, you should have the perfect temperature of milk. And if you've done the foaming properly, also the perfect texture of the milk with a nice silky milk inside your pitcher. Now that we're left with super silky, perfectly foamed milk, what you can do is you simply pour it into your espresso and get a nice cappuccino, or you can also do latte art. For those of you who are not familiar, latte art is what you might know from some coffee shops where they draw some hearts or nice drawings into your coffee. So this process is called latte art. And now I want to share with you some tips and tricks how to start doing latte art or how to improve it. So first of all, what you need, of course, is a cup and a pitcher. But before doing it with milk and espresso, let's just do it like this so I can better show you what you have to do. Basically, once you have your milk perfectly foamed, you should use it pretty much right away. And then there are a few different ways on how you can hold the pitcher. For example, you can go like this, which is nice for this motion, so very straight. Or for more artsy drawings, you can also hold it like this. So for example, at latte art competitions, you might see people holding it like this. But for the beginning, I would do it like this. It's easier that way. Once you do this, there are different steps to it. First, you want to just pour a little bit of the milk underneath the crema. So you go from a higher level like this. And once you're ready to start drawing, you want to get as close as you can to the milk. Because basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna lay the foam just on top of the crema. And also considering this, you have to tilt it more. If you tilt it more, the foam can actually roll on to your beverage instead of this, where it just have the liquid milk underneath that would drip in. Once you're ready to draw, go as close to the coffee as you can and tilt it a lot. That's something very important to learn at the beginning. You can also go as far and just putting water inside your pitcher and start trying the different steps of pouring. So just like a little bit or a lot. These different speeds are key for improving your latte art later on. Now you've seen me pour a heart and a tulip. In general, if you're more interested into latte art and to advance your techniques, we have a very, very great video with Benjamin Graf from the Mumuk Academy Austria, who's also the 3 times Austrian latte art champion. And you can check the video out here and you can learn more from him. Just briefly want to talk about a few tips and tricks and things you might have seen me do while I poured the coffee or the milk into the coffee. So one thing you might have noticed was that I was stirring the milk all over and also splitting the milk between two pitchers. This is because you want to have the same texture of milk in both drinks. And of course, if you have foam, this goes on top, and then more denser milk is on the bottom. That's why I have to keep stirring it so it doesn't separate. And then of course, like I said earlier, first off, you just want to pour a little bit underneath the crema and mix your drink. And then actually pour whatever motif you're using on top. Once you've done that, you can do all sorts of crazy latte art, and it's just a lot of practice. It takes a lot of coffees to do your first heart, and then tulip and rosetta and swan or whatever, but it definitely pays off. People love it, also really like it. Of course, the taste of the drink should still be more important than the drawings, but it's such a fun thing to do and also to learn while working as a barista. So to briefly sum it up step by step, what do you have to do to foam a perfect milk foam? First of all, take your pitcher, fill it to the lower end of this little nose with milk. Then you foam it, or before you foam it, release the foam a little bit on your machine, so in case there's water build up inside the steam when this is released and doesn't water down your milk. Anyways, then you can start foaming by putting the steam wand about 1 or 2 millimeters underneath the surface of the milk. That way you can get some air in it, and you do this until you feel that it gets a little warm underneath. Once you feel it getting warmer, you actually raise the pitcher a little bit so that your steam wand is about 1 to 2 centimeters underneath the surface of the milk. Then you can even tilt it a little bit so you get this rolling motion. That way you crush any of the bigger bubbles and are only left with smooth and silky microfoam that we want for making latte art. Also very important, after you steam milk, wipe off your steam wand and release the steam, so in case there's any milk inside, this gets out. Because of course we're working here with milk, so it's very important to work very hygienic and sanitary. And again, if you want to learn more about latte art, we have a great video with Benji. Definitely check that out. And we even have more motifs over there. So I think we do also the rosetta, swan, and some other nice stuff. So the only thing left to do is to enjoy your freshly made cappuccino. Please let me know down in the comments what your favorite latte art motif is, and maybe if you have some nifty little tricks for steaming milk. I'd love to hear them. I'm sure everybody else would also love to read your little tricks to help them. All right, so I will see you in the next one. Until then, drink loads of good coffee. Bye.